What's going on, guys? My name is Neil Villapiano, and welcome to another video here on Mofobo Network Presents. As always, thank you guys so much for spending some time to check this out. It definitely means a lot to me. And if you like the video, if you have comments about it, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that happy stuff. It would really mean a lot to me. I'd love to hear your guys' feedback. And, welcome to today's episode. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about this man right here, Kyrie Irving. And why, you might ask? Well, it's simply this. And by the way, I am wearing my Nets jersey. I am a Nets fan, in case anybody would like to know. They have been my favorite team in the NBA for my whole life since, I've grown up in New Jersey, and I was a New Jersey Nets fan, and I, just remained a Nets fan even though they moved, across the Hudson River to Brooklyn. But we're going to be talking about Kyrie Irving today. And the reason we're going to be talking about him is he has made some comments over the past week that have not really riled up people, but certainly has given people something to talk about in great detail, including here on Mofobo Network. So this information I actually got it from Scott Polacek, I believe that's his name, on Bleacher Report. So I'm just going to kind of read a lot of things that he ended up writing on an article early, yesterday, and things that were discussed, because it's certainly been, probably with regards to the NBA people and basketball in general, something that has been talked about quite often. And it goes like this. Brooklyn Nets point guard Kyrie Irving reportedly wants no part of the NBA's plan to restart the season with a 22-team format in Orlando, Florida, and went as far as to suggest players should form their own league. I'm not making this up. Let me repeat that last part again. And went as far as to suggest players should form their own league. That is really interesting right off the bat. I mean, Kyrie Irving earlier, it was actually last Friday, he, along with 100 other or 99 other players in the NBA, had a Zoom conversation discussing about whether or not players wanted to actually come back. Part of the big reason, it doesn't have to do with necessarily the whole thing with COVID-19, even though that's still a very big part of it. Another big part is the whole social justice, movement right now. Obviously, with the tragedy of George Floyd's death a couple weeks ago, and a lot of players, and particularly Black players, have spoken out about the unfair treatment of Black people in the United States, and everything like that. And Kyrie Irving is one of the players that has spoken out a lot about, he doesn't think playing games right now and finishing his NBA season is actually worth it. There have been players, and a lot of players, who have probably been on both sides of this. It seems like it's leaning a lot more towards there's more players that are wanting to play as opposed to the players that don't want to. LeBron James in particular has said that he can do both. He can continue to play and also help promote getting justice for Black people, doing both things at the same time. And I could see that. LeBron does that, a lot of those things anyway throughout the season. So it's definitely something that is without a doubt possible. But for Kyrie Irving, what's really interesting is this. And this was actually originally told to me by Kendrick Perkins from ESPN. I was listening to him on Get Up a couple days ago, and he said something that was really, really good from what he was hearing. This is the stuff he was hearing. He said that part of the reason Kyrie Irving feels the way that he feels is because the NBA told him that he was not going to be allowed to come and just sit on the bench and kind of be a leader and cheer on the Nets when they get to the playoffs. Since he's hurt, he's most likely not going to be playing in the playoffs, and he's going to have to be waiting till next season. So the consensus is that people believe Kyrie Irving changed his mind on the whole thing with regards to, playing this season and everything because of that reason. Now, could it just be that, he changed his mind anyway because of what's going on? Of course. But definitely you can see how people would say that reason is actually the reason why he doesn't want to play. I don't really know, because I don't know Kyrie Irving. I've heard many things about him. We've all heard the crazy stories, the earth is flat and things like that. But with me, I usually just, let the players speak for themselves. Because I don't feel that I have enough information, and I don't know Kyrie Irving personally to say that. So, and I understand that people might get on me to say, oh, well, you're a Nets fan. You gotta, of course you're going to defend like one of your star players. I can understand your point, but even if Kyrie Irving wasn't on the Nets, I would still say the same thing because that's just what I believe in. If LeBron James said the same thing Kyrie Irving said, I would defend it because I would understand it. And I've heard from other people, including guys like Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith, also on ESPN, saying, look, if players are saying that they don't want to play because of the health concerns with COVID-19, that's the end of the discussion. Like, we're not having an argument about it because it's like, okay, we get it. And players have been told by the NBA that they have until June 24th to announce to their team whether or not they are going to play. So obviously, within the next week, we will know if some star players will play or not play. I mean, it's just, I think that there's a very good chance that some players are not going to be playing. I think that there is a possibility of that. And I think it's going to have to do more with the health concerns than anything else. And that's no knock on what's going on in the world right now with trying to end police brutality against Black people and, ending racism as a whole. I'm not discrediting that. I'm just saying that I think that the reason, of being afraid about, COVID-19 and the health concerns in Florida is probably going to be the main reason for a lot of these players. But they have until June 24th. And so, that we'll wait and see on that. But with regards to, this whole thing, I kind of get what Kyrie Irving is saying. Like, I get what people on one side are saying, and I also understand it from both. Like, I agree with things on both sides. I do believe that if the NBA were to actually continue, I think it would be a good way for NBA players to use that platform to kind of promote this. The NBA has already said that they are going to be, trying to, promote, Black Lives Matter and, everything in between with that. So obvious. And if any league is going to do that to the highest extent, it's going to be the NBA. Knowing Adam Silver, knowing how the NBA has done things, they are going to do their absolute best to, be with the players and promote this and try to, end racism and really, support them. And that's great. I also heard from Steven Jackson, who I'm sure a lot of you by now already know who he is. He was a very good friend with George Floyd and, basically his twin, as he mentioned it. Steven Jackson put out a video 2 or 3 days ago saying that he didn't think that restarting the NBA season would be a good thing. He says that it would basically distract everybody from what's going on in the world. And to be fair, I think that there would be a lot of people that would be distracted by that, and we wouldn't be talking about it as much on these different networks. It just wouldn't happen. I understand that. But I also look at it and I say to myself, you know what? These NBA players have an opportunity with the big platform that they have, even in a tournament like this, to, really promote it as much as possible. Use the different channels that they have. So there's a positive and a negative with everything with regards to the NBA or pretty much any sports league coming back. But particularly since we're talking about the NBA, that's what we're going to focus on. Because I know that the NBA has already been, in many different ways, very supportive of its players. Because let's face it, 3/4 of the players in the NBA are Black. I mean, that's not just a biased thing. That's actually fact. That's reality. That's what we deal with. And so to me, like when I saw this and I saw Kyrie Irving, disapproving of the restart and the reason why, it didn't make me flip out like I think it flipped out a lot of other people. Because yeah, I can see why people would say, oh, Kyrie's just saying this because he's not going to be allowed to go there and, be with his team. I get that where they're coming from, but I also think that there was probably a little bit of Kyrie Irving saying to himself, yeah, I mean, there's also this possibility, like Steven Jackson said, where people could just forget about what's going on. People just go back to what they call a normal life, and we'll just continue to have these same problems of, Black people's voices not getting heard enough over and over again. And I think that unfortunately we're already in that realm. I think that you're starting to see less posts being made about what's going on and how to, end it. And that's a sad thing. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm not, part of that problem. Have I been posting a lot of stuff recently? No. And is that my fault? Of course it is. But I also understand that, there's definitely more that we all have to do in order to really nip this thing in the bud completely and completely end it, which is not going to be immediate. It's going to take time. I said before that I think it would take us about 10 years to actually, kill off racism and really just kind of, move into that, I wouldn't call it like a perfect phase, but I would definitely call it like, the phase that everybody wants to be in, where everybody is treated equal, where Black people are treated equal. So I think that that's a possibility, and we can do that. So that's the way I look at it. But with this, it didn't strike me like I think it struck a lot of people. Here's some more information for everybody. According to Stefan Bondi of the New York Daily News, who has been criticized a bunch for some of the articles that he's written over the past, I would say probably 6-7 months, with different things involving the Nets and just in general. But Irving said the Nets should skip the NBA's restart at Disney World during a group chat with his teammates. He also proposed the idea that players start their own league. Now, let's jump into that a little bit. Chris Chiozza, who is a bench player for the Nets, who, actually played really well down the stretch towards the end when, just before the quarantine began for COVID-19, he was playing really well. He actually retweeted with a comment that thing that Stefan Bondi said, and Chris Chiozza, and I'm going to, kind of censor it a little bit because it was a little bit of cursing there, but he was basically saying that, that's BS. Like, that's not true. Like, you need to actually get all of your facts right before you post something like that. Now, here's a quote that Bondi wrote. To be clear on this, Kyrie Irving has proposed to his teammates they should start their own league, and it's not necessarily in response to the bubble situation, Bondi wrote. Well, right after that, a reporter named Taylor Rooks, she tweeted this out, and this is very important, so please listen. Sources tell me that Kyrie Irving never stated that the Nets should begin their own league in response to the bubble. I believe that because you already have several players in the Nets saying that it's not true. Then you have a reporter also stating that that she's heard that this is not true. So to me, if you have multiple sources that are saying it's not true, and then you have only one source that's saying it is true, what do you think is most likely the case? The case is that it's not true. And another part of that tweet, she said, I'm told that after that report came out, he left the group chat. Now, does that make you a little bit suspicious? Yeah, but I still don't think that Kyrie Irving legitimately was like, hand on the table saying that we need to boycott this and telling all the team. No, I think this is something that he has calmly and, maybe a little quietly has discussed with a lot of players within the league. Now, Avery Bradley of the Lakers has been very supportive of Kyrie Irving's, opinions. So is Dwight Howard as well. There have been several NBA players that have spoken out that have, been with and agree with what Kyrie Irving is saying. And then you have NBA players like someone like Damian Lillard who disagrees. So to me, this is not something that is super crazy that's going to, be a massive problem. First of all, we're talking about a player in Kyrie Irving who wouldn't have even been able to play because he's hurt. So again, that brings up the whole thing that, he's only doing this for effect, to, stay in the spotlight, and also because he's not going to be allowed to go be there with his team. I don't really 100% think that's the case, but knowing Kyrie Irving's past with certain things that have happened, I wouldn't put it fully past him. But again, I don't know Kyrie Irving personally, so I can't say I can't say certain things because I just don't know what all the facts are on the ground. I'm not being told anything that is different than what we're hearing from, reliable sources. So here's a little bit more information. This comes after Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN and Malachi Andrews of ESPN as well reported Irving and LA Lakers guard Avery Bradley helped organize a player coalition in an effort to give a voice to anyone who is reluctant to speak out about concerns with the league's restart plan. So again, that's something to, take it to. So now there's a coalition apparently, and I don't know how many players are involved in this coalition. As of right now, all we know is 2. But I'm sure there's a lot of players who want to remain anonymous, maybe for right now, that are part of that coalition as well. Irving is among those who are worried that starting basketball again will take away from the national focus of systemic racism and police brutality. What's more, there is also the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic is still a grave concern in this country, and players will likely be away from their families for extended periods and face injury risk with a shortened training camp. Everything that apparently Kyrie Irving has said that he is in disagreement with is things that people have been disagreeing with since this was announced that the NBA was coming back. And this is, you can even go further than that, than talking about, was the NBA actually going to come back in the first place? Because, let me repeat this, because I've repeated it several times on the podcast and several times here on YouTube. We don't know enough about COVID-19 to have full guarantee that there's going to be safety. We don't know how this thing spreads all the time. We really don't. And it's still out there. And you're starting to see a lot of people almost act like that the COVID-19 either never existed or no longer exists just because stay-at-home orders have been lifted. And that's the problem here. And there is a concern because, look, all the NBA players are going to be going to Florida. Guess what? Major League Soccer is going to be in Florida. The WNBA is going to be in Florida. Like, it's just, pretty much like half of the athletes in the United States are going to be in Florida around that same type of area. So, is there a possibility that this virus could spread dramatically in that state? Absolutely. We already have places that have become massive hotbeds in the span of a week. Places like Phoenix, Arizona have skyrocketed with the amount of cases that they're getting. So the reality is that these things are spreading, and that's why, traveling is still such a concern, because people are saying, if you travel too many places, the chance of you spreading it or getting it and then spreading it to other places is much higher. And you could say that because guess what? Not every player in the NBA is from the United States. There are players who are back in their own countries that are going to have to come back here, possibly be quarantined for a while and things like that. And so there's that, there's that little, uncomfortableness that people are going to be feeling, players are going to be feeling. And then you bring up the whole thing with, you're not going to see your family members, you're going to have to wait another couple months before you see them again. And that's something that a lot of NBA players who have families, who have children, who are married or going to get married soon, like, it's going to be tough for them emotionally, and also mentally as well, because you feel like you're going to be like in this prison for the next couple of months. And so, they're going to be players, without a doubt, like I mentioned before, that are going to probably not opt into playing because of the reasons that I just mentioned. Also, with the systemic racism, that also is going to be a factor for some players. Kyrie Irving, is there a chance that if he was playing, he would have done this? I think there's a possibility, knowing how Kyrie Irving has acted before. I think this is something that it didn't matter whether or not he was playing or not playing, he was going to stand by this. The only thing that is a cause to be concerned about is simply this, that a week ago, Kyrie Irving was fine with this. He didn't speak out about it. From what I heard from different sources is that he was totally, cool with it. And then everything changed, like you mentioned, when he asked the NBA if he could come and, be with the team and everything. And they were like, no, because you're not playing and we don't want to, we don't know where you've been and things like that. Like, we're trying to limit the amount of possibility that people are going to get the virus. Now, is there still a guarantee? Is there still a guarantee that players are going to get the virus? Yeah. I mean, you could say that about every single sport that's coming back. There's going to be cases. There's no way that you're going to be able to go through this entire process without at least one, two, maybe a couple more that are going to end up getting the virus at some point. So we just have to understand that the whole thing is to try to eliminate, and try to lower the amount of cases that these guys are going to be getting. Here's a little bit more information for everybody. Wojnarowski and Andrews noted Irving and Bradley helped organize players' calls on Friday and Monday to discuss such issues. Now, again, we had also heard things about the fact that, there's a lot of players that basically were like, Kyrie, here's the deal, man. We all want to play. We all want to be, we all want to get back. And we see this as an opportunity to play and to also continue to spread the message. And Kyrie's, argument is saying, no, see, this is the problem. Like, if we go back and play, that people are just going to forget what's going on in the world, and they're just going to focus on us, and it's just going to go back to what it was before. And you know what? Both sides are right. Both sides have an argument to make. This is not something where it's just one, where there's only one side that makes sense. Both sides make sense. And we, just like I mentioned with the WNBA before and all these other leagues, we're not going to really know if it was the right thing to do to restart these leagues until we get into the nitty-gritty of it. or until we get to the end of it and we just kind of look at the entire thing and say, okay, what was good, what was bad, and everything in between. Now, here's another thing, and this was today, June 17th, this is the time of this recording, June 17th, 2020. The NBA put out a 100-page plan and gave it to all the players in the NBA, pretty much explaining different things like where they can go to, hang out and still be safe, the hotels they're going to be staying at, and pretty much showed them a map of, of what the bubble is going to be. And so this is something that was important. But again, the one thing that they did not put in there is, the testing and what the reaction from the NBA is going to be if somebody gets the coronavirus. And still, that's going to be a concern. And that's something that I'm not faulting the NBA for, because again, just like you and me, we don't know, how we don't know enough about this virus to make, guarantees and certain decisions. We're only going off of what the health officials are saying and trying to do the best that we possibly can. And that's what the NBA is doing. That's what the NHL is doing. That's what everybody is trying to do in this. Now, one more quote that I wanted to share, again, and this was Malachi Andrews on ESPN, who was on Get Up pretty much yesterday. She's been on the last couple of days, and she's a tremendous reporter. She does a really good job covering the NBA. Definitely go check her out. She said this, that, quote, players are just talking, end quote, about, these different things, about starting up a new league, Kyrie Irving's idea about starting up a new league. Do players feel comfortable coming back? What are the things that we don't understand? So there's a lot of, there's still so many questions that the players want answers to, that just like you and me as fans and as reporters, we're just not going to get those answers right away. We'll get them once we get into the nitty gritty of this entire, return to play situation. But, as far as getting information before it starts, there just isn't enough. So I think that there is still a very good possibility that there will be a handful of players that will choose not to play when by June 24th. They'll make that decision. Now, what does that mean if a player decides that they're not going to come back on June, when they make that choice on June 24th? What does that mean? Well, it's just like with the WNBA. It's the same thing. Players are still getting paid right now, but after June 24th, they're no longer going to get paid the rest of the season. They're just not going to. That's just the reality of it. And you know what? There's probably a lot of NBA players that are going to be fine with that. There are also probably some NBA players, particularly, rookies and second-year guys that maybe aren't making a whole lot, that want to go in order to make some money to help provide for themselves, their loved ones, and everything in between. So everybody's going to have their own personal reasons as to why they choose to play or choose not to play. So, that's something to keep in mind when we get to June 24th and you're going to hear players saying, I'm not playing or I'm not. You're obviously, for a lot of fans, they're going to be angry if it's a star player or something like that. But you also have to just keep in your mind that these guys are human and that they are going to make the decision that they feel is best for themselves, health-wise, financially, and everything in between. Everybody's going to have different, and most of the time, legitimate reasons as to why they choose to play or choose not to play. So that's something to keep in mind. And the last thing that I just wanted to discuss is simply this. Do I think a players run league that Kyrie Irving had suggested would work? Yes and no. The reason that I say no is because there's so many particulars with money and, getting certain coverage and the way it's set up that I just don't think that there's going to be enough players that are going to be on board with this, that it's going to actually happen. The reason that I say yes is because since NBA players are probably the most marketable athletes in the United States, and because everybody has so much clout and knows so many different people within the different businesses of, marketing and TV and, coverage in general, I think that it could work. It's almost like the NBA players could look at what, Ice Cube did with the Big Three and say, okay, we can create a league like that. But the question is simply this. There are several questions, actually. Number one is, if Kyrie Irving, if this was his idea, I would have several questions for Kyrie, and they're simply this. Number one is that when would you actually like to have this happen? Like, are we talking about something that's going to be another 2 months away? Are we doing that? Is it, what type of coverage are you going to get? where are you going to play the games? What about the health risks and things like that? Like, there's a lot of those questions. But I think realistically, it wasn't something that Kyrie Irving is like slamming his hand on the table, his fist on the table for. I think it was something that he just brought up that was kind of an idea of his. And, he was just trying to see what people thought and things like that. I think it was just casual conversation. I had also heard reports that he apparently had brought up this idea even during the season back in like November. He had brought it up to Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant had said that he wasn't really that enthusiastic about it. So I don't think it's an idea that's going to actually happen. I think it's something that has now just been brought up because of what everything else Kyrie Irving has said. So the bottom line with this whole thing is that Kyrie Irving has his own reasons as to why he doesn't think to play. And some of them are very legitimate and very understandable reasons. So I get that. There's also very, understandable reasons for why players want to come back. Patrick Beverley pretty much said that, hey, if LeBron James and a lot of those guys are playing, we're playing. It's nothing personal. It's just business. And I get that. Like, players are going to have different reasons financially, and everything in between that's going to, determine whether or not they choose to play or not. So that's the thing here. And for Kyrie Irving, look, it would be different if he was actually playing, because I think I'd be interested to see what he would, actually say. He might have already, if he was playing, he might have already announced by this point that he wasn't going to play. I think that's the reality of it. But, that's not the case. I'll be interested to see over the next week as well, the week until, we know what players are playing and are not playing, to see who actually, chooses to opt in or opt out. And with that being said, that is going to do it for this video here on Mofobo Network here on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for taking some time to check this out. It means a lot to me. I appreciate your guys' support as always. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Mofobo Network YouTube channel, where we post a weekly video talking about all of the different topics in the wide world of sports, just like this one. So go check it out, see some other videos, and definitely let me know what you think. Also, go check out the Mofobo Network podcast, where we post 2 to 3 episodes per week. They're on Anchor and Spotify. Just search for my name, Neil Villapiano, or Mofobo Network, and you will find it. We just talked about the WNBA's return to play protocol yesterday. So definitely go check out that last episode. It's episode 20. Also, go check out the Mofobo Network Facebook page, where you can stay up to date with when I post new episodes of the podcast and also new YouTube videos like this one. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My Twitter is at THENVPSHOW, and follow me on Instagram at NVPQB11. Also, make sure to go check out the new podcast that I'm a part of called the Devil's State of Mind podcast, which is the official New Jersey Devils podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. We post a new episode every Monday. So every Monday, there's a new episode that comes out, and you can follow the social media channels for it with Twitter at Devil State, and on Instagram at Devil's State of Mind, and also Facebook page, just like Mofobo, where you can stay up to date with the new episodes that come out every single Monday. And last but certainly not least, go check out my book on Amazon.com called JETS Pain, 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 which is about the pain and suffering of being a New York Jets fan. So if you're a Jets fan, a football fan, you know someone that's one of those, or you just want to support me, go check it out on Amazon. It's on sale for the price of $19.69. And if you're a Jets fan or a football fan, you probably know why I chose that. It's available for hardcover and ebook. So thank you all very much. And as I always say, no matter what's going on in the world right now, no matter what hardships you're dealing with and the craziness of everything, just remember when you wake up in the morning to kick some Mofobo. So thank you all very much. My name is Neil Villapiano, and we will catch you all in the next video. Everyone be safe. Thank you to all the essential workers out there, and God bless.